Welcome in another edition of Where the 99 Lead. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, and today's edition of Where the 99 Lead, we talk about the music program at the University of Pikeville. Of course, Where the 99 Lead, we talk about the historic 99 steps that lead to the University of Pikeville campus, but most importantly, they lead from campus into the community, into the region, and into the world. Joined today by a special guest, and not a first-time guest, Janine Freeman of the University of Pikeville, Assistant Professor of Music. Janine, welcome to Where the 99 Lead.
Thank you for having me here.
Not your first time, and it's always a pleasure to have you when we talk about the music program, something that I'm completely lacking in talent of, but appreciate others.
I don't believe that. I'm sure there's some musical talent in there. Perhaps if you appreciate music, that's your talent.
That could be it,
Yes.
exactly, because producing music, it's not my thing, but I do appreciate music, and those that have those talents, I truly think that it's a special gift. Today we're going to talk about the music program at the University of Pikeville, but first, Janine, if someone's tuned in and they don't know you, they don't know where you came from, they understand there's a certain accent there that is not from just up the road. Maybe you speak too properly. Let's find out where Janine Freeman came from and how you arrived here.
Well, I'm originally from Indiana, and I grew up just outside of Bloomington, so don't hold that against me. I've been living in Kentucky for a number of years, and I love it here, and it really feels like home. Where I came from, it's a very hilly topography, so being around all these mountains just makes me feel even more like I'm at home. I grew up there, and I studied at Indiana State University, Indiana University. I was working in public radio, and my career in broadcasting brought me to Kentucky. It brought me to Moorhead, Kentucky.
Sure.
And I worked there for a number of years, and then, well, as fate would have it, I took a new career direction in teaching music at the college level, and I am now here. And while I was at Moorhead, I completed my master's degree there, and I've been so pleased to be part of what's going on at the University of Pikeville. It's very exciting to be here right now.
Sure. Folks with music talent, maybe those without talent, but a passion for music. A lot of times that's learned early in life. Where did your love or passion for music come from?
Oh my gosh, well, you're going to be diving into my dark past. My mother was always very musical and would sing all the time and encouraged my sister and I to sing with her. And from a very early age, she encouraged my talent, and my dad did as well. He purchased a piano so that I could study piano, and he encouraged all of my involvement in music programs throughout my school career. And through that exposure at school, I then decided to be a music educator initially in my college studies. So my degree is in music education with a choral emphasis.
All right. So it is deeply rooted.
Yes.
It goes all the way back to childhood. And that's how I learned that I did not have musical talent. No one ever encouraged me to sing because they had heard me sing and they asked me, please don't. Why don't you go outside and find a sport to play? Something like that. That's why I learned that music was best listened to from my perspective. But Janine, also a broadcaster. And when you came to Kentucky, you were a broadcaster.
Yes.
Before that, a lot of times broadcasting is a performance type setting. Did you perform musically growing up?
Indeed I did. I tried to be involved in as many productions as I could, and some of my musical background in Moorhead, Kentucky, while I was a broadcaster, included teaching voice and piano outside of my regular work schedule because I enjoyed teaching. And I was involved in a number of musical theater productions. I performed in a number of operas, performed with a number of choirs, and one of my most dear experiences was being able to perform with the New York Philharmonic when they performed a tribute concert to Leonard Bernstein.
Wow.
They came to Bloomington, Indiana, and it was just a very special experience. So it's always been a part of me, even when I was working as a broadcaster.
Sure. Of course, that hits early. Perhaps the passion to become an educator came a little later. Where did that come from? And where was the inspiration to Janine Freeman that I need to educate students?
Well, when I was in high school, a lot of my friends were seeking jobs in town, working at grocery stores as cashiers or at area restaurants. And I had been playing piano for a number of years, and one of my cousins asked if I would teach her how to play, and she would pay me. And I quickly discovered that this was a great way to make a lot of money in a short period of time.
Sure.
So I taught piano lessons while I was in high school. That was my main job. And then in college, I continued doing that.
And the love was born there.
I think so. Honestly, being able to teach someone a skill and seeing that discovery in their eyes that they can do something that they're chipping away at and hoping to be able to accomplish, when they accomplish that goal and they're playing and they're singing, it just inspires me to want to continue teaching them and teaching others. So it's a wonderful experience.
Obviously an accomplished pianist. Do you still teach classes?
Oh, yes. In terms of piano, that I don't teach as much anymore. But in terms of other classes, I teach voice at the university. I teach the history of rock and roll, which that's a lot of fun. And just depending on how we schedule each semester, sometimes I might teach music theory or music literature. So it's always a varied offering of what it is I might teach.
Yeah. Something I've always wanted to be able to do is sit down and at a piano, produce something that sounded relaxing and something that others would want to listen to. I'm just curious if an old dog can be taught new tricks.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One thing that I envy the students of today over is the fact that our teaching methods have so improved in the realm of music.
Right.
If I had been taught with some of the methodology that's used with piano students today, if I had been taught in that manner when I was young, I would be a much better pianist today. I would have advanced more rapidly than I did. I had to work for a decade to be a decent classical pianist. And now, because of the methodology, students are able to advance more quickly if they practice consistently. So yes, absolutely you can learn to play. Absolutely.
That practice thing just came back into the picture. I'm not so sure about this. Today it's Janine Freeman, Assistant Professor of Music at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. We talk about the music program and the music department at the University of Pikeville. Lots of exciting things are happening there.
Absolutely.
This semester we see the return of the community chorus.
Yes.
Who's involved and what does it mean to be a part of the community chorus?
Wow, this is something that's been so special this semester. When I first came here to teach, I was asked whether or not the community chorus would be brought back. It was a tradition that had been continuing on up until about, I think, 2 years before I came here. And my schedule was just too busy to be able to include that. But voila, this fall, things opened up where there was possibility of bringing it back. A number of people in the community expressed interest, and that community ensemble is going to be performing Tuesday night with the university ensemble for our winter concert on campus. So it's wonderful.
How's it been received by the community outside of campus?
Well, we have, in terms of representation, we have area community members of all ages. We have some music educators that are in the ensemble. We have high schoolers, and we also have some med school students. These are people who are studying here that still have that love for music, and they want to be able to have that outlet to express themselves musically. And they've been involved, and they sound fantastic.
I would imagine they do. Of course, the UPike campus is not the only place that the choir can be heard, but as this show talks, the 99 lead to the community and the region and to the world, and the choir travels for performances. What are some of the places students have had the opportunity to perform?
Well, we've been to Chicago. That was a number of years ago, and we're hoping to try to go there again this spring. I want to get the students in to do clinic work with a chorus master of either the Chicago Symphony Orchestra or the Chicago Lyric Opera. It's always good for them to have an opportunity to receive instruction from someone other than just me.
Sure.
So they can get another perspective on choral technique, choral singing. So that's our goal, to get up to Chicago. Last year we took a short tour up to my stomping grounds. We went up to Indiana.
Right.
They performed in my hometown of Spencer, Indiana, and they were so well received. And my community was hoping that they could come back so they could perform in a local theater that's recently opened up. But we'll see if we can get that on the docket sometime soon. Perhaps what's been most exciting, a couple of years ago we embarked on an international tour, and we trekked through Ireland and performed around the country, and it was a dream come true.
What were the audiences like in Ireland with this English chorus coming to town?
Well, I had been to Ireland a number of times, and getting to know the culture and what kind of music the people at large are very interested in hearing.
Right.
They want to hear our music. When we have Irish ensembles visit our country, we're very interested in listening to their roots, their Celtic music, their traditional music. So we took with us music that was expressive of where we are from. We took music by a Kentucky composer, John Jacob Niles. We took some folk song settings, spirituals, and it was just very reflective of us. And they were so graciously and enthusiastically received at each venue they performed. It was astounding.
And traveling to Ireland, certainly a once-in-a-lifetime occasion for many of the students.
Oh yeah, we had, I believe, all but 2 people in our ensemble had never been out of the country prior to that experience, and the majority of the students had never been on a flight of that length ever before. So they were very excited, and the thing that was wonderful about that mix of students, they were willing to dive in and try anything. They wanted to get close to the culture. They wanted to get to know people while we were there, and they weren't afraid of new experiences. So it was an enriching experience for us all.
I remember we talked about that trip prior to, and I could tell then that it would be something that it's something that students can't get in a classroom.
Yes, indeed. And you know, that close contact with someone who, well, you never know, maybe many, many, many times removed. You're shaking hands with a cousin over there, because much of our ancestry here is from the British Isles.
Right.
So when we went over there and they were able to hear our music, many of the audience members came up and talked about how similar the sounds were and how much they enjoyed hearing our tradition.
Absolutely. You're tuned to Where the 99 Leads. It's a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville. We talk all things regarding the University of Pikeville. We talk athletics, we talk academics, we talk about the med school, the Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine, and today we talk about the music department at the University of Pikeville. Janine Freeman, Assistant Professor of Music, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead, and we talk about the Ireland trip and how enriching it is for students, life-changing for students, and it's part of experiential learning that we hear so much about these days. And it's not just textbooks and lectures, but experiencing the world. And what a great classroom that is. You've got another trip planned for 2015. Let's talk about that.
Well, we're going to allow the students to have buy-in. We want them to help decide where we go.
Sure.
So since we had last trekked out of the country, coming back, the singers have been very aware of this next goal of traveling internationally again. So they have been engaging in various fundraisers each year so that we've got a good chunk of change in the bank to start with, to make deposits and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But many of the students are saying, we want to go back to Ireland. We want to go see things that we didn't get a chance to see the first time we were there. So we may consider that, but something else we really want to seriously consider is possibly going to Brazil. That would be prior to the Summer Olympics, and it would be a great time to go down there. And we have 2 Brazilian students who are in our ensemble, so it would be nice to go to their stomping grounds.
Absolutely, and of course, Ireland and Brazil, 2 different climates.
Oh, definitely.
With that, but both sound like amazing trips. When will that decision be made?
Well, we'll probably make the decision either at the end of this academic year or at the very beginning of next academic year. But that'll be coming up pretty soon. We want to know exactly where we plan to go so we can get some pricing for accommodations and flights and start making our reservations and finding performance venues.
Sure. 2015, the next international tour for the University of Pikeville Chorus. And of course, you mentioned students raise money for those trips by hosting fundraisers. One of the most interesting that we've heard about, of course, the singing telegram. We all know what a singing telegram is: birthdays,
Yes.
anniversaries, Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
But now we hear about a Santagram. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Well, this is something that we started a couple of years ago, and it's proven to be very popular. Rather than send just a greeting card by itself, you can
Right.
send a greeting card with your favorite holiday song. So it could be a Christmas carol,
Sure.
it could be a Hanukkah song, whatever is appropriate for that person you're sending it to. And we deliver it with a candy cane and then peppermint or chocolate
Right.
and, of course, the song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to send the song "Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer,"
We haven't had that requested yet, but you never know. That might be on the docket this year.
I've just been challenged. I have just been challenged. That request may be coming.
Oh,
But
well,
the fundraiser, talk about that and how, if someone's tuned in right now and they're interested in this,
Yeah.
what a fun greeting to send someone. I can see someone sending this to their teachers,
There you
their
go.
professors, their loved ones, maybe a coworker that just needs spirits lifted. But a Santagram, if they're interested, who do they need to call? How do they get in touch? And what's it cost?
Well, in terms of our delivery rates, it usually depends on how far out from campus we're having to trek. So when it comes to off-campus delivery rates, they start at $20, and most of them are close enough where we're able to keep that rate of 20.
Right.
But we have delivered some singing telegrams to West Virginia, so we have to, take care of the gas along the way. So that'll go up a little bit. But if you want to get information, anyone who's interested can call me at 606-218-5770.
Very good. We'll get that number again
Sure.
a little later as well. But Santagram, what a great gift. Something that's fun, and I guarantee the recipient will never forget it.
Well, the students, they are so diligent about making sure that the songs are polished, so when they go out that they sound good. You get a good product
Right.
for the money that you invest in that gift.
Absolutely. Of course, the spring semester just around the corner, and the course schedule includes classes such as art administration. What sort of classes will be taught, and what's the value of the classes to the student experience?
Well, we are in the final process of that last formality of this being our full-fledged new degree at the University of Pikeville. Arts administration is kind of an umbrella label that's now given to anything related to arts and entertainment industry-based work. So, for instance, when I was in school, a lot of my friends majored in music business. Well, now a lot of that kind of degree falls under the label of arts administration. So you can have an emphasis in visual art, the fine arts, and music at our school. And the students will learn about their art, but then they will also learn about the business side.
Right.
And arts administration courses focus in on the specifics of an arts and entertainment related career. So, for instance, this spring we're going to be offering a course in careers. And the students who are enrolled in that course will be introduced to a variety of careers that are available to them, careers that will open the door to a student like themselves because they have knowledge of their art form. And they also have knowledge of the business side of things. So we'll have people representing publishing, we'll have people from the music industry, from various performance venues, from the various theater companies we have in the area, come in and talk to the students about their work and what kind of career possibilities could be related to their special area, their organization.
Right. A lot of times we hear of music majors or art majors, those that maybe have a major or a minor in those type of fields. and many times their emphasis is education in the past. And I think it will expose students to some other fields and careers that they can go into and take that love, that passion with them
Absolutely.
as you have into education. But there are other careers out there.
Oh, absolutely. And my career in broadcasting, the doors opened for me because my undergraduate degree was in music education.
Sure.
And when I went to those different locations working in public radio, that area of expertise in music ed allowed me to cover stories on education trends, or because of my knowledge of music, I was able to interview musicians in a relatable manner.
Sure.
So music and art, sometimes people think, well, what can you do with that degree? There's a lot that you can do with those degrees.
Absolutely, and that's part of the arts administration program. New degree coming, and how soon till that's in the catalog?
Well, as I mentioned, we are in the very final stage of having that final stamp given. We have received approval from our accreditation society, SACS. So right now we're just basically getting it added to our, I guess you could say, license, so that it's official and it'll go into the book and people will be able to graduate with a degree in arts administration. So
Very, very quick.
very quick, very quick. This is like the little final thing that's the sign off, that's a formality, and then the degree is there.
Absolutely. Assistant Professor of Music, Janine Freeman, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. Of course, today we talk about the music department at the University of Pikeville. World travel with the University of Pikeville Chorus, a trip to Ireland already in the history books, another trip planned, and of course, Santagrams. And I know you're curious about that. If you missed that, we'll have more details on that. It's a way that the chorus raises funds for those trips and for students to be able to make those trips and experience the world of music and the world around them. Where the 99 Lead? It's what it's all about. You also mentioned earlier that you teach a class on the history of rock and roll.
Yes.
You're a rocker.
Yes, I am.
You've read every edition of Rolling Stone magazine.
Maybe not every edition,
Yes.
but close to.
Is it part of the text material for the history of rock and roll?
It is for me. I like to try to keep up to speed on what's going on in the music industry. In that course, yes, we talk about the various genres, the history of the music, but I also like to educate the students on, well, some of the social trends and business trends that are related to rock and roll and how rock and roll has impacted business trends and social trends. So it's kind of an all-encompassing approach to how you might examine this music.
Take us back to the origins of rock and roll.
Oh, well, where we start, if I had my perfect world,
Yes.
we would actually have a full semester just talking about the roots music that rock historians agree are the three key components to that recipe we now label as rock and roll.
Right.
Where we would talk about the older country and western music and also the pop music, the Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett music of the day,
Sure.
as well as rhythm and blues and the general history of the blues. But that's where we start the semesters, where we talk a little bit about the market for those musics, the sounds of those musics as they had been in the late 40s, early 1950s, and how it all got thrown into a blender and came out as this thing we now call rock and roll.
Do we still have rock and roll today?
You know, the thing that's kind of interesting is the last true innovation to the music. Rock historians agree the last true new thing was rap, and rap came about in the mid-1970s. Rap is not that new.
Right.
Rap found its mainstream audience in the later 1980s, but it was in existence full-fledged in the middle of the 70s. And since then, we've basically have had these blendings of genres
Sure.
that were already created, just kind of layering on top of one another. So we're very ripe in terms of the world of rock and roll for a brand new sound, a brand new innovation to come out, but it just hasn't quite happened yet.
Interesting class, I'm sure.
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to teach, I have to say.
I have to think so. Janine Freeman, top 5 rock and roll artist for Janine Freeman.
Wow. Okay, you're gonna learn about.
I won't hold you
the
to 5.
nerd in me. Well, the Beatles. I
Okay.
love the Beatles, and I love Pink Floyd. Another favorite band of mine would have to be Yes, and well, those top three, they're all British bands, but there are a number of American and Canadian artists that I like. I love the band Rush.
Right.
And in terms of American bands, artists, I love Alice Cooper. So my tastes are just, they run the gamut.
But a lot of folks that might have grown up with rock and roll or the later years of rock and roll, certainly most can appreciate those. And while I would say that we've got their records, now we have their downloads.
Exactly.
We carry those on our electronic devices now, but many of us grew up with albums.
Yep.
And I would imagine in the history of rock and roll, while music is available electronically now, I would imagine that some of that music is best appreciated on vinyl.
Yes, you know, it's really a shame that when technology advanced as it did and always will, we have now come to the point of it's a download, and you know, some people don't even want to listen to the entire song. They just want to hear the best part of it, the hook of the song, and then they're done. It's quite disposable in a lot of listening ears now, and I think that's such a shame. There used to be a lot of thought, as you remember, into the process of creating an album, a lot of thought in the flow from one song to the next, in the album artwork, and we've lost so much of that. The listening experience is really not quite the same, and I am partial to vinyl. It's just a warmer, richer sound when you're listening to analog recordings as opposed to digital.
Of course, it's tough to find turntables these days. Needles are almost non-existent, but there are sources out there, and when you find those, stock up.
Indeed, indeed.
But the history of rock and roll, incredible class. It must be, and it sounds like a course that many of us would love to audit and just be a part of.
You should come in and sit in on a class sometime. I think you would enjoy it.
Take me back decades, but that's where music takes us anywhere.
Well,
it takes us special places in our memories.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, for me, if I'm able to connect a student to an artist or a band that they hadn't been familiar with prior to taking the course, and maybe they start listening to their music, I feel like I've accomplished something. So it's a wonderful way to be introduced to new sounds. And they introduce me to bands and artists I have not heard of before.
Sure. Where does rock and roll go next?
Gosh, you know, I just keep hoping in terms of the way the music industry has run, that we're going to have more self-reliance when it comes to the artists, that they'll take back more control of their sound, of their careers. We've had so much emphasis in the industry to find that one song that has that infectious hook, so people will just buy 1 million copies of that one song and not the entire album. But more and more artists, instead of signing to a major record label, they are just putting out their own music. So I really think we're on the cusp of something new happening in the sound of music and also the way business is run.
As soon as there is an artist who is willing to take on the industry and say, I am an individual and I am a creative person, and I'm not looking just to sell 1 million records, that's when it changes. It's what music's all about: individuality, creativity, and taking us to those places in our mind. Janine Freeman, Assistant Professor of Music at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. Of course, the choral department, the music department, raising money for travel for students. Chicago, Indiana, Ireland, Brazil. Money needs to be raised. And you've got a great way to do that this time of year, Santagrams. Again, let's get more information, the cost basically, and a phone number to contact for more information.
Well, for off-campus delivery, the cost begins at $20, and depending on how far out we have to trek can determine what the final cost will be. But with that investment, you get a card that you sign. We try to meet with you if you're not able to come to the university. Myself or a student will meet you at your place of work. You'll put your message into the card that you're sending, and depending on what that person might like, whether it's chocolate or peppermint, we will seal it up with that candy surprise, so to speak, and go out and sing to them a song that you believe they'll enjoy hearing. So normally at this time of year, a lot of people simply request, "We wish you a Merry Christmas."
Sure.
And that's great. But we've also had people request specific songs like the Christmas song or "I'll Be Home for Christmas."
Right.
And we have a number of students who can sing those to perfection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very talented students at the University of Pikeville in the music department at the University of Pikeville. Janine Freeman, thanks for being our guest again on
you.
Where the 99 Lead.
I appreciate you having me here.
It's always our pleasure. Again, get your singing Santagrams, and the number to call one more time.
606-218-5770.
Call right now. Order that singing Santagram this holiday season. Janine Freeman, Assistant Professor of Music at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. Where the 99 leads from campus into the community, the region, and the world. Where the 99 leads, brought to you by the University of Pikeville, the leading university of Central Appalachia. I'm Andrew Joyce. Thanks for tuning in.